Are we too little, too late? Possibly. But we're finally here. We're finally doing the final chapter. Finally. Could I say finally more? Finally. Finally. Chapter 31. Saturday, January 5th. 5 January 2009. Google failed me. I spent all night searching for the name Faison, and I couldn't find anything. Anyway, I've already talked to Nikki about today, and she's not on cam duty. I love that kid, and he always seems to end up hurt, or on the almost hurt side of things, so the more we can avoid taking him into unknown situations, the better. We don't know what 2 o'clock sharp will bring. Everything was white. Emma sat up. Was that a vision? Or did she black out? Or white out, in this case? There was no feeling before it. Emma yawned. She had no reason to suspect that she had just seen a life-changing vision. Instead, she dismissed it, reasoning that she must have dozed off due to staying up too late doing research. Emma's phone buzzed. She stood up and fetched it from the nightstand and opened it to find 4 texts from Nikki. I'm here. Are you coming? Emma, where are you? Emma looked at the time. 1:45. She quickly sent a text back to Nikki. Overslept, and ran her fingers through her hair. There was no time for a shower, so Emma threw her hair up into a bun, changed out of her pajamas, deodorized herself, and ran out the door. Up late? Nikki asked upon Emma's entering the car. Research on Faison, Emma said, buckling her seatbelt as Nikki backed out. Emma looked around the car. Nice car. Do I smell leather? Yeah, Nikki said. The rental finally came in. This is a rental? Emma looked at the interior. This is nicer than any rental I've ever seen. No, Nikki said with a laugh. This is my mom's car. I can't drive the rental since I'm not over 25. That makes more sense. Your mom has a sweet ride, Emma said, running her hand over the leather seat. Nikki looked at Emma. What? I just never thought I'd hear the words sweet ride coming from you, Nikki said, smiling. Nellie's rubbing off on me, Emma admitted. Clearly, Nikki laughed. So, did you ever find anything on Faison? No. Emma scratched her greasy head and frowned. No one seems to know anything. Rochelle and my grandma just exchanged nervous glances and tell me to trust my magic to guide me. She sighed. Kind of felt like when I wanted a pet hamster as a kid, but darker. What? Nikki asked as they passed the library. When I was a kid, Emma explained, I wanted a pet. I had been talked down from a unicorn to a pony to a dog to a cat to a hamster. Unicorn? I grew up with magic. I know what's out there. Now focus. Emma said, I wanted this hamster. Every day we went over to my grandma's house for my training, and every day for a month leading up to my birthday, I would ask about getting the hamster. Okay, so? Nikki asked as they wound their way past fields and houses. There were less houses standing in the area than the last time they had driven this way. There was also considerable debris scattered throughout the fields. So, Rochelle and my grandma would just smile and say something like, maybe next year, or we'll see. And, Emma said, stretching the word out for emphasis. Oh, excuse me. And, Emma said, stretching the word out for emphasis. I ended up getting a hamster for my birthday. So, what's the big deal? Nikki asked, clicking on her blinker to turn left onto Main. They know something, Emma said, squirming and regretting not taking a shower. Oh my gosh, look at this, Nikki said, distracted from their conversation by the view down Main. Unlike the earthquake, the tsunami had left Main Street a wasteland. Very few shops were still standing, and the ones left were so water damaged they had to be torn down and rebuilt anyway. It cost a fortune to restore everything, and though it would one day return to its former glory, that day would not come for several years. However, you may be pleased to hear the construction began within the year. You know, Nikki said, driving slowly to avoid debris, I heard on the radio that only Main Street was damaged. The experts can't figure out why Otter Sands wasn't wiped right off the mat. Good news for magic, I guess. Yeah. Still, though, it makes you feel kind of lucky to be alive, huh? Emma said. No kidding. Nikki drove around a car, which was upside down in the middle of the road. I'm glad Henry came, Emma said, still looking out the window. She hadn't meant it as a tease, but Nikki gave her a sideways glance anyway. Nikki parked the car and said pointedly, So, what were you saying about hamsters and your aunt and grandma? Emma sighed. I think they know something about Faison, and they're not telling me. She rubbed her eyes. She was worn out. I got the same feeling when I was talking to them that I got when I asked them about the hamster, except this time it feels more... Emma paused and searched for the word. More what? Nikki asked after a little while. Foreboding? Emma guessed. Like they're hiding something from me? Nikki turned the car off, grabbed her bag, and got out. I don't know, she said. I mean, them hiding something from me, sure. But you're always on the inside. I'm telling you, Emma shut the passenger door. They know something, or at least suspect something. I mean, you heard Grandma at the reading. Trust your magic to guide you. After she just finished telling me something is coming for me, and then we get this weird letter. It's weird, Nikki said, putting up her hands. But you got the hamster, right? She locked the car and started walking over in the direction of the hike to the cove, dodging more debris. Yeah, Emma admitted, following Nikki. So, if you got the same feeling, then that means you'll probably find out where you know Faison from, right? Nikki moved branches from the path as she walked. I mean, I don't think the trust your magic thing was anything cryptic, but, she added quickly, if Rochelle and your grandma really are hiding something, they'll tell you eventually. I guess, Emma said. The girls made it down to the cove and found Nellie sitting in the sand, waiting for them. Where have you guys been? It's 2 in like 3 minutes, Nellie said. Overslept, Emma said. Past 1 in the afternoon? Nellie asked. I stayed up almost all night trying to find Faison, Emma said defensively. Did you? Nellie asked. No, Emma said, but I know it from somewhere. Well, I got this. Nellie pulled out an envelope made of the same parchment as their message yesterday. January 5, 2009. It's been a month since my birthday. I've turned into a mermaid, stopped water, stopped time, almost stopped a tidal wave, saved a life, got a few new friends, found long-lost relatives, and became a princess. It's been a month. Honestly, if every month of adulthood is going to be like this, I don't think I'll survive. The nightmares won't stop. I've tried everything I can find on the internet. Lavender, melatonin, ocean sounds before bed. That actually made it worse. Do I tell Henry? I called him yesterday. He came by last night. I told him what was happening with the letter from the Faison lady. He said he'd meet us at the cove. Nellie looked at the page. Admitting to the nightmare in her journal was one thing, but telling Henry about them? Would he brush them off? Would he even be able to help? A ring at the doorbell stopped her train of thought. Nellie checked the time, 11:45. She waited for someone else to answer the door for a second before remembering Tom and Joe were out surfing. As Nellie opened the front door, she was met with the familiar frame of her most recent ex-boyfriend. Andy, she said, partially irritated, partially surprised. I don't need to come in, he said quickly. I just wanted to talk to you for a second. Behind the screen door, Nellie crossed her arms. I'm listening. Andy readjusted his red 49ers ball cap and touched the bridge of his nose. Well, Nellie pressed. I'm sorry, he said. I screwed up big time. Nellie nodded but didn't say anything. A lot of freaky stuff happened over the break. Andy cleared his throat. I mean, first a lightning strike in the locker room, and then there was the bonfire and that tidal wave. He shook his head. I had a lot of close calls, and it made me reevaluate some stuff. That's probably good, Nellie said. I also joined a program. Andy rubbed his hands together. 12 steps and stuff, he added. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm going to try and do better. I accept your apology, Nellie said, dropping her arms and putting her hands in her back pockets. After a moment, she added, you're a good guy when you're not sloshed. We're still done, though. I figured. And, thanks, Andy said with a good-natured shrug. Hey, he rubbed his hands together. Whitney told me you're dropping out of the circuit. Is that true? Nellie nodded. That's a bummer, Andy said. You're way talented. You would have made it big. Nellie smiled. Thanks, but it's for the best. Andy clicked his tongue. Well, see you around? Sure, Nellie said with a nod. See ya. She closed the door and rested her back on it. Of all the things that had happened in the last 2 weeks, Andy apologizing was probably the most unexpected. Someone knocked on the door again. Figuring Andy had forgotten something, Nellie turned and opened the door again, but no one was there. She went to close the door when she saw an envelope taped to the door. She hesitated for a moment. Their screen door was notoriously loud, yet she hadn't heard it creak open or slam shut. Nellie grabbed the envelope, sealed with the same ornate gold and green wax seal as the one Emma had. It hadn't been taped. It had been magically adhered to the door. It came off with ease, no sticky residue. Nellie flipped the envelope over to see what was written on the front. To Neldon Hansen, Nikki Rodriguez, and Emma Hugos. Open at the Cove at 2 o'clock sharp on Saturday, the 5th of January, year 2009. Madam B. Faison. Nellie ran outside and looked around, hoping to see anyone who could give her an idea of how Madam B. Faison had found the Hansen home. When she couldn't find anyone after a few minutes of searching, Nellie went back into the house, locked up, left a note for her dad, and drove down to the Cove. January 5, 2009. They know about us, but no one ever told us about them. Henry's here. Nikki closed her journal as Henry sat down next to her in the sand. Nellie and Emma were in front of them. Let me see it, Henry said, putting his hand out. Nellie handed the letter to him. He held it in front of him and read, Greetings, Nellie. Greetings, Neldon, Nikki, and Emma. My name is Madam Bryony Faison, and I am the head luminary of the Grand Conclave of Elements. Recent events have brought your actions and powers to the attention of the Grand Conclave. Assuming you've never heard of us, I suggest you ask your mentors, as all three have been invited to join the Conclave at various points in their lives, though all have unfortunately turned the offers down. As head luminary of the Grand Conclave, I would like to offer our thanks for your honorable and heroic actions regarding the bonfire on December the 21st and the tidal wave on January the 1st. We commend your efforts. While we cannot extend an invitation for you three to join the Grand Conclave of Elements at such a time as this, due to your lack of a completed magical education and your extreme youth, we do hope that you will find yourself the opportunity of being offered a place in the conclave when you have matured. We wish you the very best in your studies and endeavors. Remember, ours is the secret we take to the grave, for we are ever present and ready to save. Never mortal praise we need, for only magical laws we heed. Sincerely yours, Madam B. Faison. Henry, Nellie said after a while. What's it mean? Was it a test? Emma asked. What? Nikki looked at Emma. Emma took a deep breath. The fire and the wave, they were both magically created, right? Was it some kind of test to see what we could do to see what we would do? To see what we could do? Henry considered this information for a moment before he answered. I don't think so, he said finally. It would be very on brand for them, except sending a letter after and then not mentioning it. The GC tends to be gloaty. GC? Nikki said. Grand Conclave, Henry explained. But who are they? Nellie asked. They're a bunch of magical prudes that take it upon themselves to be our government, Henry said. I didn't join because they're a bunch of prudes, Nellie finished. Yeah, Henry said, plus there's no casual Friday. He smirked. What do they actually do? Nikki asked. Well, they mostly meet and talk about the line between magical and mortal worlds, Henry explained. They're not really a government. They're more like a high-class association, invite only, but don't tell them that. He shrugged. Basically, this means you're big power, and even though you're not ripe for the picking, the Conclave has its eye on you girls. How many more of us are there? Nikki asked. What do you mean, witch? I mean, Nikki said, ignoring her traitorous, flip-flopping stomach. How big is the magical community? Huge, Henry said. Can we be kind of specific here? Nikki said. Henry considered this for a moment before saying, let's just say for every non-magical being walking around on this planet, including animals, there are at least 3 magical beings walking around in the same space. Nellie whistled. So, does everybody get a letter from the Grand Conclave? Nikki asked. Henry shook his head. So why did we? Nellie asked. You guys are massively powerful, Henry said. The Conclave wants to make sure they've got you guys in their pockets. Henry handed the letter to Nikki. It's another reason I said no. Too much bureaucracy. When did they invite you? Nellie asked. A few years ago, Henry said. How old are you? Emma asked, taking the letter from Nikki and scanning it again. He thought for a moment, converting merfolk time into human years, and said, 22. You would have been the youngest member of the Grand Conclave. Emma stared at Henry. I suppose, Henry said, shrugging. Wait, Nikki said, snatching the letter from Emma. They didn't want us because we're too young. How come they wanted you? You're too young magically, Henry said. It says we cannot extend an invitation for you three to join the Grand Conclave of Elements at such a time as this due to your lack of completed magical education and your extreme youth, Nikki said, reading the letter aloud. Henry waved his hand. Political mumbo-jumbo designed to make it sound like your physical youth is actually a favor. If you guys had been 5-year-olds with completed magical educations, the Conclave would have taken you in a heartbeat. So if it wasn't them, Emma said, who did magic everything? Good question, Henry said. Either way, I think you girls should keep an eye out. January 509. Henry explained the letter. We're being watched. Dun, dun, dun. The end. That is the end. If you want to know what happens next, you're just going to have to find book 2. Book 2 is called An Obscured Glass, and if I was a smarty pants, I would have brought a copy up here with me. But I was not a smarty pants, so I did not. So I don't have a copy of book 2 up here. But I've been trying to decide if I want to do one more video or if I want to just like close out 2025. And I think, despite the fact I would really like to do a like, did I meet my goals from last year video? Maybe if we get fancy, that video will come. If not, I have a plan for next year that I'm really excited about. So I'm going to keep doing YouTube, and I've started a new Instagram handle. So it's going to be, I'll put like a little, I can't put a link because I don't know how to do that, but I'll write it down. What it's going to be, it's dc.c.contour.writes on Instagram. So I'll put it down somewhere. But one of the things I'm going to do for YouTube, because as a writer, I create, right? I write books. And I have only so many creative juices, and creating content in terms of weekly videos, it's a lot. So I'm actually not going to do the recommended thing, and which is put out 2 videos a week every single week for 52 weeks a year until I die. Would that make me grow faster? Probably. It would appease the algorithm gods or however it works. I don't know. But I also know that that would hardcore burn me out. Having to come out with even just 1 video a week, that's still 52 videos. That's a lot. Plus, also, I'm going to be working on, I just got book 3 back from my editor, so I'm going to be working on that. Book 4 needs a huge overhaul. I finally finished working on that this year. And then I'm going to need to write book 5 at some point just to finish this series. And then, there'll be new things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a page from old school TV. The way it used to work back before we could stream everything and had access to everything 24/7, is you would have a TV channel that would show your favorite show, and they would come out in seasons, right? So British TV worked where you'd have like the first half of the season, like Doctor Who does this. We have the first half of the season come out from like September to December, and then they'd have a Christmas special, and then they'd take a break, and it would be radio silence until like February, and then like February, March, and then into April, you'd get season 2, which is like the second half of the story. So we're going to do something like that. So it's going to be seasonal. There are, let's see if I can pull it up. There are, I believe, I have plans for 10 episodes a season, and I will do 2 seasons a year. And my plan, I kind of like the idea of doing goals video so you can see, hey, these are the things I'm wanting to plan. So like I said, that video might come, or this might be the last one for the year. I don't know. But this is, I'm going to shrink it down so you can't actually see what it says. But this is what I'm planning. So I'll have season 1, and then there'll be a season 2, season 3, and I kind of color coded them because I like to color code the things. But there are tentatively planned 10 episodes every single season. So maybe you get one more video from me this year where I'm going over last year's goals, and I'm going over, or this past year's goals. What were they and did I meet them? And then showing you kind of what my goals are for 2026 as an author. Maybe not. Maybe we just jump in. But either way, my very first day, episode 1 of season 1 will air on March 6th is the plan of 2026. I've got some really fun ideas. The episode 1 will just be kind of like an intro. And my plan and my goal is to have everything filmed so that you kind of like see like some previews, and it should be really fun. And then it will go through until May 8th. So there'll be 10 episodes, and they will come out they'll come out every single Friday. And that's kind of the plan. So I'm going to talk about, I've got an editing vlog of me prepping book 3 to go to my editor. I'm going to film, I've got plans to film, creating like the book 3, cover art, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. There's some things I have planned, and some things that I'm like, I kind of have in the back of my mind of like, oh, that might be a fun idea. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm stoked. It should be fun. I feel good about having, because I feel like shooting 20 YouTube videos for an entire year is way more feasible and doable in my brain than trying to shoot 52. And with 52, there is no room for a break, right? There's no room to get sick. There's no room to miss a week, which is silly because I do that anyway because I already missed this week, or last week or whatever. Anyway, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And one way or another, we'll see you in the next video.